Hi, I'm Rachel, and I'm going to show you how chefs cut onions. And then I'm going to talk about all the different ways that you can use it. First, we're going to do a medium dice. And I'm grabbing an onion here, and I'm going to cut it in half. And I'm going to trim off a little bit of the end. And then I'm going to peel some of the papery layers from top, because these are just tough, they're not gonna cook down, and also they're a little bit more slippery than these thicker layers inside. I'm gonna just trim this part, but it is important, especially when you are dicing an onion, to keep this part of the bulb attached, just because it keeps all of the layers together, and when you're dicing, it'll help keep the onion in place and you can get more even slices. You can rest the onion on the cutting board to get the slices. I like turning it ever so slightly and holding it, because this way I can see how thick my slices are going to be. So we go ahead and slice evenly. And we're not going all the way through. As you can see, the end of the onion is still kind of attached. And then slice across. And a medium dice onion measures about 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. And then run your knife vertically like that. Make the final cut, giving you a medium dice. I don't like wasting the ends, so we're just gonna, again, slice it this way and then cut it the other way. I generally tend to use a medium diced onion in soups, pasta sauces, stir fries, anything that I want a little bit of bite in. So any kind of recipe that you want to saute the onions or sweat the onions and you want them to hold shape and you want some texture in, medium dice would be perfect for. Next, we're going to do a small dice. And the difference between a medium and small diced onion is just the size. You use the same way of cutting as we did for medium. As you can see, the medium dice is definitely larger in size than the smaller dice. So I'm going to start by making cuts across. They're going to be slightly smaller, which means more slices. And then I'm going to run my knife across like this and make the second cut. Small diced onions are sized about 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to make this final cut, giving me a small dice. And I would generally use this for, say, a stew, where I want the onion to kind of fully dissolve and disappear in the final result. I also use this a lot in pasta sauces and a lot of Indian curries when I am too lazy to make an onion puree. Next, slicing. So I have my halved onion here, and I'm gonna trim off the end, but this time we're gonna trim off both the ends and then peel off the papery layers. And then I'm gonna make even cuts across the half of the onion. Then I like to flip it over. So these are our sliced onions. They're about 1/8 of an inch thick. You could certainly slice them thicker if that's your preference, but no, that's going to kind of increase the cooking and caramelization time. And I would use these to make caramelized onions, jammy onions. They're not too thin, so they won't burn that easy. They just kind of dissolve into a beautiful caramelized mess. I have my onions for caramelization right here, but say you wanted to slice an onion for a raw application for, say, a crudo, you would basically do the same method, just slice them paper thin. As you can see, I have my 2 vertically sliced onions. So this would work super well in, say, like a raw application. If you're making a crudo, you garnish this on top, and then this would be amazing if you want to caramelize. Same method, just one is thinner than the other. Next, I'm going to do half-moon slices. So start by having your onion, cut the end off, peel off all the papery layers on top, and slice off the top bulb a little bit. And then we're going to go this way in this motion. And in this too, I'm going 1/8 of an inch thick. You could go thinner if you wanted. And I like using this cut to make marinated onions or to make pickled onions. I love throwing this in salads just because they have a good amount of bite and snap to it. So, they add a lot of texture and crunch to them. Mincing a shallot. Shallots are also from the allium family. They're just a little bit sweeter than, say, like a red onion. So I'm going to start by trimming off my end and then cutting in half. Peel off any papery layers. Make sure you keep this root end intact. And sometimes you'll see that there's like a thin skin on this, so make sure you peel that because that is super slippery, and if your knife is not sharp enough, you can end up hurting yourself. And now I'm gonna go ahead and make my first cut using a paring knife. I find that a paring knife is the perfect size for the width of the shallot. I just feel like I have way more control. And then vertical cuts here. And then go back with my chef's knife. I would use this cut in cold salads. Since the cut is so small, it works perfectly to kind of add that subtle oniony flavor in the back. I would also saute this cut lightly in butter and use it in risottos. And then anything that didn't get cut, just go over and run your knife. Minced shallots. Now I'm going to make shallot rings, and these are perfect when you want to make crispy fried shallots. Okay, so peeling the outer layers for this one will be a little bit different because we're not cutting this in half. So I'm going to go and make some incisions ever so slightly, so it's only piercing the first few layers and not all of the shallot. That way you can just go right ahead and peel that off like that. And now I'm just going to go ahead and slice these about 1/8 of an inch thick, and that will give you perfect round rings. I would use them to make crispy deep fried shallots. I would even throw them on salads or use them to make marinated shallots with some olive oil, dried herbs, and vinegar. Here are all the different ways that you can cut onions. Now you have all the tools to cut onions for pretty much any recipe that you want to use it for. I'm not crying yet, but I can sense it coming.